Welcome back to the Long Way Back podcast. We're still here in Dublin. We're in Crumlin, in the Addiction Resource Centre here in Crumlin. And we have a fantastic guest coming up. I listened to this lady speak at a LinkedIn mental health talk last year, and she stole the show, and we had some other people that were there on the day as well doing the talks, and these were people who were known all over the country, but the one that stood out for me was this lady here. Her name is Tammy Dunahey. Did I get that right?
You did indeed,
Okay.
yeah.
And you're a youth mental health advocate.
I am, yeah.
Tommy, sorry, I fucking forgot to introduce you there. my bad, I was too focused on pronouncing the second name properly.
Yeah, and I was focusing on the fire as well. I was saying, he's going to forget it.
That's the...
Don't worry, Tammy D.
Yeah, but listen, Tammy, welcome, and thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to listen to your story and to have a conversation with you. And if you want to just bring it right back, how it was for you, where you grew up, maybe the dynamics of your family and education and stuff, and we can move into other stuff then.
Yeah, no bother. Thanks for having me.
Thanks
I'm
for
delighted
coming.
coming
Thank
over.
you.
Got here way too early because of me little anxious driving. Yeah. But I'm Tammy. I come from a lovely place on earth called Finglas.
Yeah.
A lot of people wouldn't agree with that statement, but I wholeheartedly love my community so much. I'm a really big advocate for it. I hope I never have to leave Finglas. And I love it. And I suppose, you know, the headlines and stuff people would say about my area, it'd make them think, why would you love a place like that so much? But it's really this place that I find magical, you know. I feel so safe there, and I always have. So I've been in Finglas my whole life. I was born to my two parents, Ennis and Tommy, and they were quite young when they had me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my parents' addiction got their claws into them during their lifetimes. So when I was quite young, my grandparents took me on my dad's side, and I grew up in their house.
Your grandparents brought you up, so Tammy?
They did, yeah. Okay. So I was in foster care. And I suppose my nanny and granddad took me on. My nanny always said from when I was 18 months old, but I wasn't officially signed into care until I was 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. So for them few years, my ma and dad be in and out of prison. And when my mum would get out of prison, she'd come and take me back. Mm-hmm. And when she'd take me back, we would be living in not great situations. Okay. So we could have been in hostels. We could have been in what a lot of people would refer to as crack houses. Mm-hmm. And we would have just been in not great situations. You know, I have a lot of memories from my early life that I don't really discuss that often, of like sitting in McDonald's toilets, like saying, "Ma, come on, hurry up." Yeah. And my ma would be in the toilet. Or, you know, just situations like going up to the church and knocking on the priest's door, because if I was there, the priest would probably give you a bit more money. Yeah. Stuff like that, you know. A lot of people would have looked at me and thought, "Oh, that poor child, she's getting dragged up," all that stuff. I disagree with that. I think everybody in my life was doing the best with what they had at that moment.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I do think that. So it was a bit chaotic. Then I was signed in with my nanny and granda, and they reared me very well. So I was very, very lucky.
And we can see that from the way you present yourself and the way you speak.
Yeah.
You know, and as I said earlier on, I listened to you talk, and you're very, very, very good at articulating what's going on for you and putting your story into words.
Oh, so thanks very much. So yeah, that was me. My dad got out of prison then after that stage, and he'd take me to weekends. We'd have great times together. He was with a lovely girlfriend, and he gave me great memories. And then unfortunately, my dad, who would have been in and out of recovery trying, I don't know if you remember it, but the head shops came to Ireland and delegalised a certain drug. You know, I think at the time a lot of addicts said drugs that are legal. Yeah. Go on, no bother.
I know, yeah.
And unfortunately, that happened with me dad, and he developed psychosis and he became really unwell. and not too long after that, he took his life. So that was a really big shock for the whole family.
How old were you at that stage of your life?
I always get confused, but I was either 10 or 11. And we had lost an uncle to suicide as well when I was 7 years old, my uncle Dano. So that was my dad's little brother. So then when we lost my dad, it was just such a tragedy for our family. It was very, very sad.
Yeah, that sounds... were you with his mother and father, or you were living with his mum and dad? So that must have been devastating for your grandparents.
Yeah, definitely. To lose 2 children to suicide is just terrible. And you know, it really was down to lack of services in the area. There was no mental health back then. There was no addiction support. My nanny tried for a very long time to get some support from my dad, and she just couldn't, and it broke her heart. So it was quite sad, like.
Yeah, that's tough. Especially when somebody really wants it.
Yeah.
And they're just struggling along and they're crying out for help, and then they die.
Yeah, and he was a great father. He was just amazing. Like, I have nothing but good memories with him. And you know, we're just so lucky that we had him in our lives.
So do you understand? You obviously you have a great insight into addiction and why we use like why addicts they can't stop.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a lot of it is, my understanding of it is based on our coping mechanisms and not being able to cope with emotions and cope with our heads and because we haven't got the tools to do it because we were never given them, you know. And again, by no fault of anybody, people just do their best with their can. But if somebody's gets the right coping mechanisms and they're shown how to handle emotions at a young age and process, I believe it really helps them to deal with life and life's terms in a greater way, whereas they don't have to turn to substances and alcohol to be able to soothe them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you've done some of that work in your own studies. Like. Yeah,
definitely. Like, for me, you know, when I look at things, it's really in communities like my own and your own, it's that, you know, that socially economic disadvantage, it shines through so much. And for me, like, it was intergenerational. Like, on my ma's side, my granddad and his brothers were all in homes. And then my ma was taken into care when she was a child and she was in a home. Then I was taken into care, you know, it ran through. And it's quite unfortunate, but like I said, people do best with what they know, and everyone was still trying really hard. It was just unfortunate that, you know, no outer agencies could step in and help families like mine. It's sad to think about it.
It is sad. It is sad because it could have made a difference.
Yeah.
You know, it could have made a difference. But you know what I look at here, and this is the inspirational thing. I look at somebody who's brought up by 2 fantastic people, your grandparents, who done their best for you. But if you turned out to be an addict, right, and you were in and out of prison and destroyed from drugs and God knows whatever else in relationships, okay, nobody would bat an eyelid because of your parents. It was like monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
But when I see somebody like yourself who has completely changed that kind of knock-on effect, the ripple effect of your parents' lives, that's what stands out to me. You know, and how we can change our lives and to stop that kind of from continuing which in your own life and with your own children and whatever else. So that's very important as well, to see that and to have somebody here to show like it can be done.
It can, yeah.
It can be done.
It can. It ran in my family until it ran into me.
And you stopped it.
Yeah. That's the way I
How
look
did
at
you
it.
stop it? What?
So I suppose, like...
Have you just got good awareness from a young age, Tammy?
I think from a young age, I always knew I was different, you know? And that comes down to being in the yard in school and kids saying, you don't have a mammy and daddy. And me saying, yeah,
That's
I do. They're just in the army. But I always had that awareness, I suppose. And I knew my nanny and granddad were open with me about drugs, and they told me, you know, people were sick in our family and stuff like that. And I just knew I couldn't do that. I couldn't go down that road. So, you know, as a teenager and stuff, I was always very strict and like, no, I don't want to take that and I don't want that, no thanks. And I kind of had this perception that like drugs have ruined my life. They've fucked it and I've never even taken them. So if I take them, I'm going to be completely 100 times worse.
Yeah.
So I think it was just the fright of seeing everything that I had seen, you know, like raids in the house, police coming through doors. You know, I always feared that kind of stuff. Even now when I'm driving down the road and I see the police, my whole body tenses.
Yeah.
I don't say, oh, there's the police, we're safe, we're protected.
Yeah.
I tense. And like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I've tax on insurance. I'm grand. Like, but it's just one of them things. Them
I feel the same.
relationships. It's mad. Like,
And I feel the same. Probably Tommy. Though I checked the mirror to see her after turning around to chase me, come back after me.
Same.
Yeah.
Even on the way up here, there was a police car behind me, and I was like, "Fuck's sake, they're gonna pull me in now."
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have to do nothing wrong.
Literally.
But they went the other way. But it's just the way I was conditioned, and always believing that authority figures are always gonna want to catch me for something.
Yeah. And that's my experience, you know. In school, my dad had died just as I was in 6th class. So then I went into secondary school and that's when things started to kind of fall apart for me. I became quite mentally unwell. I started to self-harm and I became quite obsessed with suicidal ideation.
Okay.
So I just went downhill, and I suppose when my dad first died, I wasn't told he died through suicide. I was told he came off a motorbike. And it's gas because one of my family members used to have this lovely canvas in the house, right? And it had a lovely picture of me dad photoshopped onto a motorbike in it, and it said, 4 wheels move the body, 2 wheels move the soul. I used to look at that picture and say, that's a bit fucked up, like thinking me dad came off a bike. And then one day I was walking down the road and there used to be this woman who lived on the end of the road. Her and her husband were in addiction and they would have been my dad's friends. And she says, oh, Tammy, I'm after getting something for you. She was out robbing and she had something in the bag for me. She said, come down to the house. So me, little kid, was running down after her. And a fella came around the corner on the bike and he goes, who was that with you? And she goes, that's Tammy, Tommy's young one. Remember he hung himself around the corner?
Jesus Christ.
Whoa.
And I was like, what? What
What
the
age were
fuck
you
is
then?
she on about? I was about 11 or 12, I'd say.
Old enough to understand what he
Old
was just
enough.
saying.
And like I'd known that my uncle Dano had took his life, you know, so I was like, what the fuck is she on about? She's obviously out of her head. I was thinking she doesn't know what she's talking about, but I internalised it. And I didn't talk to anybody about it. So then when I was in school, it was all coming out in these behaviours, you know, these teachers coming in and telling me what to do, these social workers coming in and telling me what to do. And I'm thinking, I don't have a marrying of that. Nobody can tell me what to do. And I just became angry at life and angry at the world. And I mean, like, my school was great. There was so many interventions put there. You know, we can go through the list, like the Rainbow Club. I've done arts therapy, drama therapy, psychotherapy. I've done CAT. I've done the antidepressants. Like, I done all of these different things. And I got to the stage from that age to about 16 that I just was like, I give up. Nothing's working. I'm doing everything and I'm still fucking mad. And I just didn't know how to cope. It was very sad when I think back on it.
And do you know, from working with the psychotherapists and stuff, was what they were saying to you, did it make sense? Like, were they trying to speak, were they speaking to you like you were a child or an adult? Were they giving you an understanding of why you were feeling the way you were?
I suppose for me, like, it was just this script. Oh, here's another one I have to talk to. I go in, I'll tell them the life story and I'm going to be the same. And then I turned 16 and I had the great idea that, do you know what, I'm 16 now, I don't need anyone to come to doctors with me, I'm going to go down and get a script for antidepressants. And I done that. And the doctor gave me that script. I walked out with it that day. She put me on a waiting list for CAMHS. And unfortunately, the way it worked at the time, I think it's changed now, but because I was 16, I was too old for CAMHS. Because I wasn't 18, I was too young for adult mental health services. So they left me with nothing for 2 years.
That's tough.
Yeah. It was.
was there anybody there then to talk you through how the effects of the medication and stuff?
No, I just took them. I was delighted, and I remember,
Did it help?
I was very sick at the time.
Okay.
My medication would do this thing to me that I'd have these dreams that exact same as today, right? But you would be sitting over there, and then I'd come into it in real life now and say, "Oh, Timmy, remember you were sitting over there yesterday?" And you'd say, "Tammy, no, I didn't."
Yeah.
So then I didn't know what was real and what was fake.
Fuck it, yeah.
And I was, really like talking to everyone, and I just didn't know what was real and what wasn't. And then I just decided one day to stop taking them, and it was so hard. Like, I had the sweats. It was an awful couple of weeks, but it was probably, hindsight, I done it the wrong way, absolutely. But it was probably one of the best things I could have done. And I'm not anti-medication. I think, if it works for people, it works for them.
Exactly,
They definitely should take it. But for me, at that time, it didn't work. That's not saying it won't in the future if I do need to reach out again. But definitely then, with the tools I had and stuff, it wasn't working. So I just became like so recluse. I wasn't going to school. I hated school. And that's because I couldn't get myself out of bed in the mornings. I couldn't face life. And school didn't understand that. I was always fighting with teachers or something like that. And
was there any touching off drink or drugs around this period of your life?
Yeah, I think I started to drink. Like, I started to drink about 15. My nanny had let me have a bottle or two in the pub.
But it didn't become an issue, like?
No, never. Now, I never touched a drug, like, still to this day. I've never even took a blow off a joint because I'm just so scared.
Yeah, and they keep it that way too.
Yeah.
But the reason I was I was asking that question is based on, a lot of people who feel the way you were.
Yeah.
Like, they reach out to substances and alcohol to be able to get that soothing, and for somebody to actually move through it in the way you did, that takes a lot of strength,
I was just
especially in a young person.
terrified. I was just looking at everyone around me, and I just knew deep down, I knew that doesn't work. If I go that way, it doesn't work. I never seen anyone in me, community who was on drugs who it was working for. So I just knew I couldn't go down that route.
There was a good fear you had, like.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And also I was terrified that I'd be back. I was terrified.
I know.
But I was just like, no way. So yeah, thank God I didn't go that way. It was at a time where a lot of my friends probably would have been experimenting and trying things out. And even now to this, like, I'm 25 now, and it's isolating.
Yeah.
It's isolating not taking drugs.
Yeah.
I can't go out with everyone when everyone's getting a bag and I am not.
You just made such a great point there, like.
It's hard, like, and then you also come with this stigmatism of she thinks she is better than us because she is not doing that.
There's something wrong with you because you're not using drugs.
Yeah.
Because the norm now at the moment is to use drugs.
Everyone does.
Yeah. And for some, like, when you say, no, I don't use drugs.
Yeah.
It's like they go,
yeah.
what's wrong?
It's weird now, not to.
I was that person looking at people at a party and they take nothing.
I was nearly trying to bait her up their nose.
Yeah, you'd be saying, get them out.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with him. He's up to something,
Yeah, exactly.
But now looking at it, even if you were out in the pub and they're all out of their head, it's like, get away from me. Was I like that?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I can completely understand that isolation part of it, because when I came home initially and I was sober and stuff, I actually had no one in recovery.
Yeah.
I had no friends.
Yeah.
All my friends were still active, using and still involved in the lifestyle and stuff, and I was like, it was a lonely place.
It is.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like, I don't think I'm better than anyone. I have friends who do stuff and I say, on a good buzz, are you having a good time? Are you safe? Are you okay? Like, and
you're not telling them what to do with your lives, you're just
I
making sure.
Would, I don't agree with that kind of way. Yeah. But it's hard, and that's eventually you get to the point where you stop kind of going out and you look for different outlets.
Yeah. And they do come.
Yeah.
And the outlets, like what we found Tammy was walking was fantastic. But you know what I love, Tammy? I just love being at home. My wife, my kids and the dog. And the weekend. I'm busy all week with work and everything else. I just love being at home, sitting down, maybe the firelight, and I love the comfort of the fire. I don't know what it is. If I was sitting down in the front room and there was no fire lighting and the telly was on, it was a Saturday night, it wouldn't feel great.
Yeah.
But if the fire is lighting, the fire
And he
does
loves
something.
the fire.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
I
have
do,
me
Tammy, don't
jealous.
I?
My nanny and granddad used to say to me, your arse is going to go on fire.
Yeah.
I'd be sitting on the fire. And now I'm in an apartment and I tell you something,
Yeah.
I miss an old fire.
You would, wouldn't you?
Oh, I miss it terrible.
Yeah, it's part of
Yeah.
the more cold fires.
There's nothing about, even, please God, in the future, if I'm able to buy my own home, I'm not buying a new build. Fuck off. I want an old house with a fire.
Fair play. So we were chatting about when you were 16
Yeah,
kind of, and the meds and stuff, and you knew then maybe that they weren't working for you and you decided to come off. How did things work out then afterwards? Were you in outreach for a bit?
I wasn't, so I stopped kind of going to school, but just about enough that I wasn't out of school. And I'd made a decision at this point that I was going to take my life. I didn't want to be alive anymore.
Okay.
So when people were saying to leave and cert and this and that, I was saying, I'm not going to be around for that. I don't care. I'm not studying. I'm not going to school. And eventually it came to the point where I went into school one of the days and the vice principal called me into the office and she said, there's a new guy here, counsellor, Charlie. Will you go and talk to him? And I was thinking, oh Jesus, someone fucking else. No.
Another one.
No, I'm actually all right. And she says, if you come in and talk to him next week, you can come in for that day. And I was like, what? Okay, right. So it was kind of this thing then that I'd go in and see this fella and I'd only have to come to school that day. And, you know, I'll never forget my first session going into him. I was shaking like a leaf. My whole nervous system was so bad. And he was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm just freezing. You know, I didn't want to tell him anything. Yeah. But I had this image in my head of this person. And when I walked in the door and seen a normal young fella, I was like, oh, who is this? And I started talking to him about things that I probably wouldn't have talked to other counsellors before. You know, you go in one day and you say, oh, my head is wrecked. The fucking helicopter was up all night. I didn't get a wink of sleep. And they're not saying, oh my God, how traumatising is it that someone got shot on the road? He's just saying, I know the fucking things that have your head wrecked, wouldn't he? And I was like, wow, he gets it.
Yeah.
He gets this.
Yeah.
This is normal. Yeah. What is going on? So I began to see him and I went from going into school to see him once a week to going in twice a week to it coming up to say the Christmas break or whatever. And he says, here, I'm a bit nervous, like I'm not going to see you. He said, why not? I'll open the school, come in and see me. Then I got to summer and I said the same thing. He says, we're going to keep going through the summer.
Fuck. And
we kept going and we walked through things. And during this time, one of my friends said, I'm going up to the youth centre. There's a music something on. Are you coming? And I says, yeah, I'm not doing nothing else. And I was kind of at this age where I was just past 16. I said, I'm a bit hairy to be going to youth services now. What's going on? But I went anyways. And when we went up, the gig or whatever it was cancelled. So we all just sat there chatting. And I was like, this is amazing. I never knew there was something like this for people like me. So I started to go to the youth centre all the time. And when I tell you Zaimi and I went to everything, I went to the music group. Now there's not a note in my head, there never has been. That's how I started off. I went to a young leaders group. I went to an LGBT group for a while until they said to me, Tammy, are you LGBT? Yeah. And I said, no. And they said, you can't come anymore. But I mean, I milked it, everything I could go to. And it's funny because I was in school maybe 1 or 2 days a week, but I was in this youth service 5 days a week, loving it, like meeting people, just having such an amazing time. So it got to the stage that, you know, I was speaking to Charlie and he said, you know, it's coming up to leaving, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to just sit it? And I said, you know what, yeah, I will sit it because I know my nanny would love me to. So I just done it and I didn't have any expectations. I done everything in ordinary and lower. I wasn't looking for points, nothing like that. I just done it to do it. And I remember saying to myself, if I get 100 points, I am winning here. Yeah. Now, I don't know what it goes up to, but I know people do be looking for 600 and all. I only wanted 100. And I remember the day they gave the results out, I was at the top of the queue and my principal was there. And I used to give him a hard time sometimes, but he was a great man. And I really think he was brilliant. And he handed me the results and he just winked at me. And when I opened it, I got 213
That's
points.
brilliant.
And I nearly done backflips out of school. Now, I know to some people that's nothing. And I had friends sitting around me that day crying that they only got 400 odd. But I got double what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. I was so, so happy. And I think that was my first kind of point that I said, like, I actually might be good at something. Like, I actually might be all right at this life thing. Because I had just written it off that I wasn't. I didn't know what to do or how to do anything. And like that, all the friends had applied to the CAO. You know, the teachers never asked me to bring in a credit card to apply for that because they didn't think I was going to go to college. And anyways, I don't think I knew anybody with a credit card at that point back then. So I was like, fuck it, I'm not applying for that. The card up. So yeah, that was that. And then one day I was in the youth service and one of the youth workers, Dano, came up to me and said, what are you doing? Like, and I said, oh, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not good at anything. I can't do that. And he said, would you not do this, like, youth work? And I was like, oh, like, can you do this? I didn't know, like, you can do this. So he said, there's a course in the Liberties. It's only for a year. Why don't you try it? You don't need points or anything. I said, no way. So I applied for it. And, got it. Got the course with the recommendation from the youth service and went in and just said, fuck it, something to do, keep me busy, and just went in and done it. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Or to be able to use something that was completely against you to your advantage. And I think them PLC sort courses and the further education courses are very important to people like us who find normal education system challenging, and that was the only thing that worked for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got an education only for the PLCs and further education.
Yeah.
And it also gives us an opportunity to show ourselves that we actually are very capable of doing whatever we can, because I used to be thinking that I wasn't academically capable of ever doing anything. But when I was taught in a different way to the normal system, that's when it started to change for me. My life started to change, and people were starting to notice where my struggles were and where my strengths were, the teachers, and they'd give me the help. Yeah. And I got someone to write reports with me and how to fix my reports. Someone helped me with Microsoft Word. Yeah. You know, so the supports are there. They're definitely there. So look, searching from like Tommy, I hope you're okay with this, but Tommy can't read or write, and it's been like that since we're small. Yeah. You know, and none of us, me, John Paul kind of was. He was a year away from doing the leaving cert.
Have you done it? Did he?
No, I didn't. No, he'd got fifth year, I think. But he would buy and sell me. Tommy's one of the most streetwise people I know. Yeah. He is what you call. How many points can you get in the leaving cert? 650?
Something like that, I think,
Well, if you go onto the streets and you get points for being streetwise in the streets, Tommy would get 660.
Yeah.
Do you know? That's because he is that kind of person. He knows how things work, and you know, and I think having that street smart is worth more than anything else. Like, education is fantastic. Yeah. Let's be honest about it. But we also have to learn how to live within our communities and how to express ourselves and how to keep ourselves in order and balanced within our communities. Like you spoke about how much you love your community.
Love it.
You know, like when I stopped using and stuff like that, I couldn't wait to get out of my community because I had a bad name because of fucking being involved in drugs and being violent and drinking stuff in pubs and shit like that. Yeah. But no, I fucking love where I live.
Do you know what, Timmy? I only seen a quote last night. I shared it on my Instagram story. It said, that person that you're making fun of and calling a junkie might just one day drag your own son out of hell if they get sober.
100%.
Do you know that what you just said there? I never really had the words to explain that. And I was on the radio one day and I was asked a question. And somebody, I think they were talking about why do addicts get so much, why are they getting so much fucking attention or whatever. And your man said, something about begrudgery, right? And why is there such? And I says, okay, people. I said, look at it like this. I said, like, if you have a man or a woman on the show and they're giving out about people who are in recovery and about what they done before and they should pay, and I said, think of it like this. I said, right, these people who are giving out about me today, okay, because I'm trying to get on with my life and do something with my life, will be the same people who will knock at my door in 5 years' time to help their son or daughter.
Yeah.
And I says, we can't put people down, because these people serve a purpose like a civil service person serves has a purpose inside an office as an admin clerk or whatever it may be. So we just have to lead people off and support them, because you don't know when you're ever going to fucking need them.
You don't.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
We just don't know when we'll ever need somebody. But the course, where did it go from that? You done that year then, Tammy?
I done that year, yeah. And I suppose in it, you know, I wouldn't walk 5 minutes up the road to school. I wouldn't do it. I hated it. And then I had to get a 2-hour bus into town every day.
Jesus.
And I'd say within the first week, I was like, that's for me now. I was going in, I was learning about addiction. I was learning about young people, about trauma, about pain. And I know about this stuff, you know. And that wasn't the kind of stuff we were discussing in school, because it was keep your mouth shut about all that.
Brushed under the carpet.
Yeah. So when I was in this course, I found my voice quite instantly. And, you know, halfway through the year, whatever, they said, are you going to go to Minutes? That was kind of the next step for everybody. And I had spoke to a few youth workers from the service and said, like, what way did you do it? I was looking for advice. And everyone had said to me, if you want to go to Minutes, go to the Liberties first. The extra year is brilliant. So I says, right. So they told me I needed 5 distinctions to get into Minutes. And I tried my best. I put my head down. I just learned, and I'm a natural communicator, as you can tell by me. You know, I'd waffle the ears off anybody, so I didn't mind talking things out and learning and stuff like that. I was lucky to get some grants. I got a laptop off St. Vincent de Paul. You know, I was getting through it. And then we went on a family holiday to Spain, and I was after applying to go to Minute, and the letter came, and my family members rang me. They said, "There's a letter here. Will I open it?" And I said, yeah, that's my letter for my course, like, what, my results. And they opened it, and they both went, oh my God. And I went, what, like, am I after getting in? And they said, you got 10 distinctions, Tammy.
Jesus Christ. Whoa.
I couldn't believe it. Me,
that's
who
unreal.
I thought can't do nothing, got 10 distinctions.
Yeah.
I was so proud of myself, I really was, you know.
And that's how that voice in our heads telling us that we're useless and no good changes, by looking at the voice is always going to tell us, you know what, you're not able. But then when you look at this piece of paper that says the opposite, you have to kind of look at it and say, do you know what, I am actually well able, because I had a similar situation.
So I never planned anything out, to be honest with you. I just, because I had plans to take my life, anything else was like, you know, I have a friend, Brian Penny, he has a book, Bonus Time. That's what it was like for me. I never planned that, so I just went with the flow then when opportunities were coming my way. So I goes to Minute, I does the youth and community degree. During that time I started doing a lot of volunteering. So on the degree you have to do placement in 3 different places. So I was doing my placements, I became involved with a youth information website, and was volunteering in with them. And I was going in and I was speaking to a lot of young people who probably wouldn't have been from the same background as me, and you know, they were bringing forward very valid issues like climate change and transport and stuff like that. But I was saying, like, you know, there's people where I live who like are dying, you know, and that's not right. And eventually I was asked to join the board of this organisation, so I got onto their board of directors, and it was real weird, like it was amazing, and I'm so grateful. But when I first went in and there was all these people in suits and stuff, I was like, I'm not meant to be here, like, what is going on? But I wasn't meant to be there, because they wanted me there, you know. And I'll say it to anybody who's looking to go into, you know, any sector where you work with people, volunteer, because all the opportunities I've gotten, I've really got paid for it, and I've done, and I don't want to, because it's about who you meet, the connections you get. It's so important. So, and
that stuff comes down the line, Tammy.
It comes down the line, I'm telling you. So, you know, I just focused on to be honest with you, I'm saying I focused on, I think I was running. I think I was at this stage in my life where, you know, I came from one point and now I'm getting educated and I'm realising if I want to get out of this, I need to educate myself. And then, you know, COVID's hitting and you're seeing bad things happening in your community. You know, there's a lot of deaths where I come from. Like, I've been to more funerals than I ever have weddings, christenings and confirmations combined. And I think I began to kind of just go into this mode of keep yourself busy. So I was doing that, and I was getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, going to college, probably getting home at 7 that evening, going to a youth service, volunteering somewhere, doing something. And I just kept busy, kept going. And then Ian out of Spun Out, who was the board that I was on, one day approached me and said, Tammy, the Mental Health Commission are looking for someone to come in and speak to them. Will you come with me? And I was after doing a video for Spun Out that was quite successful. I told my story like I'm telling you now. And I says, yeah, no bother. Never heard of the commission, what they do, nothing like that. I just went in. And when I went in there, that was when it hit me, like, these were like important people. I didn't know what I was going into. And I went in giving out about services that done me wrong and this and that, and I let them hear it. And I suppose, like, even now when anyone asks me, like, will you do a talk, will you do this, will you do that, I say, well, I will, but I'm going to be honest, just so you know that, because I'm not going in to talk about somebody else's agenda. You know, lived experiences there because it's lived, and we need to be honest about certain situations, even if it doesn't come with frills and all. So I went in and spoke to them. In the meantime, my time had finished up on the boards there. I volunteered and put my name forward to sit on the board of directors for Jigsaw, the National Youth Mental Health Service, and I got that place. And then I received an email from Ian with a letter from the Minister for Mental Health saying, Tammy, you will now be a member of the Mental Health Commission. You will be sitting on the board of directors. I was
and
like,
that's still, you're still...
I'm still there, yeah.
And Jigsaw as well.
And I'm still on Jigsaw as well, yeah. And I was also on the board for City of Dublin Youth Services. But the commission for me was like, I'm mad. And they want me to go in here and see what all these psychiatrists, I won't leave.
But you know what I get from that? I get a real sense of joy.
Yeah.
Because there's somebody who's actually lived in the shoes of the children that these people are making policies for in the room, who can voice for these kids.
Definitely.
And make the real change. And I'm sure you do, you know.
Yeah, I try my
because
best.
I'd be quite vocal as well in
definitely.
situations like that.
And it can be intimidating. Like, I know I heard someone say it before. I don't know who it was. It was on a podcast. And they said, like, you know, it's not imposter syndrome. You are an imposter. And I am an imposter in a lot of them situations. You know, people like me have never sat in rooms like that, have never sat around board tables like that. But, you know, we've come too far now to keep letting that happen.
Well, I tell you one thing though. It will come natural to you in time.
Yeah.
It will. I felt like that too for a long time. Sitting at these tables with people from really high positions within the justice system and different things, you know, and asking me for my opinion, and I'd feel I'd kind of second question myself for even saying something. Then I got to a point, if I have the opportunity to sit here, I need to voice what I believe based on my own experiences, what worked and what didn't work. Do you know, for the people that are still within the justice system and people who haven't got a voice.
Exactly. Like, I used to think it was them versus me. Now it's not. They're my pals. I know these people. They're nice people. Like, I remember when I done my masters, and I done it in comparative criminology and criminal justice in Maynooth. And the fellow who ran it came over to me with a person and said, hey, this is whoever, Darragard in Finglas police station. I was like, oh, let the ground swallow me up. They definitely know who I am. Do you know what I mean? They heard that second name. But like that, you know, it's not actually a big deal. It's not what you think it is. And for me, that's the most important part of healing them relationships. You know, that's what takes the work. And that's a lot of work to go with that amongst, you know, the justice system, the health system. It's needed. Yeah,
and like, it's very important to have people with lived experiences in every... Like, I'd be a member of the education task force for within the prisons at the moment, and all I need to do is give my own experiences based on how education worked for me, and how I got a job on the outside, and how I got my trade and apprentice. And they always kind of come to me and they'll ask me, based on my experiences, what works, and I always give feedback. You know, but what's very good for me then as well is to be sitting there and listening to all the other organisations and just find out how they work, and being able to find out that it's not as straightforward as it is either. You know, like I was in my head, why aren't they making the change like the way I want them to make the change? But they're telling me then face what the implications are in making the changes and what issues they have and the funding issues, and it makes it's easier for me then to go back to people who are invested in it, who are stakeholders in different projects, and say, like, this is the issue. You know, that's not there. The funding's not there, or that it has to go from this table to that table to that table, and there's one person signing their name to it. And things always take time in any kind of civil service or any, you know, any of these kind of areas around the criminal justice. Things take time because there's so many different people who have to put their names to it. Then you have to get funding. But I think we're definitely in the right place, like having someone like you working with the Mental Health Commission, right? I'm working with the lads in the Education Task Force for prisons and stuff, and there's other things as well. You know, I think we're definitely living in different times, and I think we're going to keep implementing people who have lived experiences to get their voice, because that's the number one voice that needs to be in the room.
Definitely. And I always, you know, had this kind of thought process of like, if no one else going to do it, ask me, I'll do it, because I don't mind talking. But the only thing about that is that I don't have the experiences of maybe everybody. You know, I'm not LGBT, I'm not a person of colour, I'm not a traveller. There's a lot of things, you know, that I can't bring forward. I can only bring forward my own stuff. So when we're looking at intersectionality, I suppose, in the mental health sector or in prisons or anything like that, it's so important to have people with lived experiences who is able to think about other groups of people and bring forward or to communicate with them groups of people and say, like, is there anything you want me to say while I'm here? Is there anything I should keep in mind? Because, you know, we need that. And I think we're at a pinnacle now in society where a lot of organisations have brought in people with lived experience, but it's just their little guinea pig, their little hold it up tokenistic, here's like me person ticked.
The box has been ticked.
And when you talk to people with lived experience, as you know, I'm sure we all have a lot of friends in this sector trying to get voices heard. You know, a lot of people aren't getting paid. I recently done a public speaking gig with somebody who'd be quite high profile, and I left and I didn't get paid for it. Now, that's me, I didn't ask, but then I heard afterwards that person got $5,000. You know, and that's the kind of thing in this sector that is kind of overlooked. I think we're at a point now where it's not just about lived experience and voluntary, it's about respecting that lived experience and paying people and actually showing them you are valuable and worthwhile, and you're not just a tick box for us. We're actually going to implement what you're bringing forward. I hope that makes sense.
Completely. Oh my God, the way you just articulated it there is exactly how it should be. You know, and I think people have a problem with paying a person who has the lived experience because of they're still. It's grand getting somebody who have lived experience to do the talk. But as you said, it's just like you're just there as the little guinea pig, just to say, oh, we care. Without actually showing the real appreciation and looking after them like you would look after somebody else who hasn't got the lived experience, who's actually getting paid handsomely for what they're doing here.
And that's shame, you know.
That is, and that's actually. That's worse than actually even asking somebody to do a talk. If you're not going to look after them like you're going to look after this main speaker, okay, don't ask them at all, because you're actually only putting them down by bringing them up and paying somebody this amount of money and not paying this person who has the lived experience nothing, who actually fucking steals the show as well.
And who won't ask. Because I know I wouldn't ask. A lot of people, because of shame, where we grew up, we're not going to talk about money.
Because
No
we're
way.
people pleasers, Tammy.
Exactly.
We grew up wanting everybody to like us.
Yeah.
And keeping everybody happy with ourselves. But I've learned not to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I put a value on myself these days. I do things that I'm passionate about for nothing. Don't get me wrong.
Same. Yeah.
But there's things like, you know what? When I do ask for it, they don't get back onto me.
Yeah.
But that's me valuing me. I don't go into my head afterwards and say, fuck it, did I ask them for too much? And I rarely ask for anything.
Yeah.
But I have put a value. And listen, if they say no, that is their loss.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is their loss. And that's the way I look at it. You have to put a value on people and their lived experience, whether they have criminal convictions, whether they've been to prison, whether they're homeless on the streets, whether it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, and I think people like us should.
Yeah, and I think people like us who have got to that stage now where we recognise it, we should all be helping each other out. It's not, oh, Timmy might get that gig, so I won't talk to him because then I won't, you know, it's a thing of like, build each other up. When people are starting off in their journeys in this kind of sector, they're very vulnerable. They don't want to talk about money, they just do want to talk. But, you know, they have value, and, you know, if you're going out your way to do something, why it's not up to them or us to ask, it's up to corporations to start that conversation with them and say, this is what we're offering. Is this okay? Do you want more? Do you want less? Accessibility? How will you get here? Are you actually putting yourself out of your way, getting a taxi? Are you out of pocket? What's going on? It's
100%.
really important,
Yeah, and that also shows us that we're actually being integrated into society and we're a part of society, whereas we're still being segregated if we're not being looked after like the other person who hasn't had the same experience as us, and they're looked upon as the keynote speaker or the special speaker.
Yeah.
So I do get what you're saying, and I think that was a very valid point as well. I wouldn't have really kind of thought about that or even had a conversation about that with anybody before. I've often thought about it, but this is my first time having a conversation about it, and it's about putting value on you. And if people say, nah, okay, be as nice as you can, just say, okay.
And like that, come here, if it's a community centre and they want you there, you're going to go. You're never going to ask for money for stuff like that. But if it's a big corporation that's able to rent out a big building and stuff, do you know what's there? Like, you know yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like,
do you know, of course. So,
and then by them paying people for them big events makes people be able to do the little ones for free.
There you go.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's the key.
Yeah.
And they're the community events.
Yeah.
People who
they're the real grit. That's where the magic happens, you know.
We were here today. We were here doing a talk this morning in front of the community here in Crumlin, and you could see there wasn't a sound during the whole talk, because people were invested in what we were saying because they were able to relate to it, and they could understand exactly what's going on for them based on what we were trying to get across to them, what happened to us, and we were able to relate. And that was happening a lot, and that's why we come to communities like this, is because we know that the response is going to be very, very not so much the response from people, but what's going to happen to them. It's just the more we talk about it and kind of inform people about the route to recovery, or how you can get well, or what's there, or how you can achieve it, I think more and more people get well.
It's attraction. It's not promotion. You know.
And it happened in our own family. Got well first, got into recovery. Tommy followed on, John Paul followed on. You know, if I was still doing what I was doing, I don't know, would the boys have?
No, definitely not. You know, like we all went into addiction the same time, and we didn't come out of it in the same time. I was last. But you know, monkey see, monkey do. That's a big one. You said it well ago as well. You know. So
what are you doing with your life today, Tammy? Like, you finished your masters there?
I did. I finished it nearly 2 years ago now. So, look, to be honest with you, I'm just floating at the moment. I'm doing a few bits and bobs. I came out of youth service there. I was working there for a few years. The funding got cut, so I'm not currently doing that full time at the moment. And just kind of volunteering, doing the board work, figuring stuff out.
What's your dream?
My dream? Don't know. I just want to be secure. I think all of us just want to be safe and secure. Last year I lost my nanny, God bless her.
Fuck, sorry.
Yeah, it was very hard, but for the first year I just pretended we were fighting. Denial, number one stage of grief, couldn't accept it at all. So I just pretended that, you know, we'd fight like cat and dog when she was alive, so I just pretended we were fighting for a year. So I think whatever our higher power may be, he came down to me in December and said, right, I'm not giving you any more funding for this role, you need to look after yourself. So when January came, I had to deal with that. My ma got out of prison, so that was quite chaotic. So I've just been taking the past couple of months to, you know, look after myself. I think when you change your life and you go into this lifestyle and recovery, people think like, how did you get better, Tammy? How did you do it? The answer is, I don't know. I just kept doing things that worked, and some days I wake up and I'd rather die than get out of bed. You know, the mental health problems didn't leave me. They're still there. I still have the mad thoughts. I just know how to deal with them now and let them keep going. So
it's absolutely powerful what you said there. Like, it's just even about the higher power stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know either how I'm sitting here. I don't know how I'm still away from drugs after nearly 13 years. I don't know, Tammy. Genuinely don't know, Tammy. Like, I just know that any time I was in a really, really bad spot, I asked for help.
Yeah.
And it came.
Literally.
It either came by someone walking into my life who completely inspired me in a way that I needed to be, or it was just maybe my own kind of mind and body just allowing and accepting whatever was going on for me without fighting it.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's like me, you know, my interventions, as I'd call them, was Charlie was my one good adult. You know, I needed somebody to see I could get out of that life, and he was that for me. The youth service was my intervention. That showed me education, that life. I recently, you know, at the start of the year, joined the 12-step fellowship. It's a family support fellowship. So it's for people who are family members of people who use mind-altering substances. The 12 steps should be taught in schools.
100%.
They're life-changing, you know, and I haven't started my steps yet, probably because when I get to my character defects, I'm going to look at how stubborn I am, do you know what I mean? But just being in a space with people who know exactly what it's like. For years, you had me pal John Boland in just there. I was showing up to recovery things for years, boys, and people were saying, are you clean? And I was saying, well, I actually never took drugs. And people were saying, why are you here? But I was there because I can't explain to you how safe I feel when I go into a room full of people who are in recovery, who know the madness of that life the way I do. But they also probably know that bit of isolation now that they're out of that. And how do we get on with each other and talk to each other? And, you know, for me, when I kind of came to terms with a lot of people in my life are addicts who I maybe had thought weren't addicts, I became very isolated. I didn't know how to have conversations with them anymore. I was doing a work placement in a rehabilitation centre, and I was going home to family members who are actually very like the clients I was working with, and I didn't know how to cope. So to now be in this fellowship with people who actually understand that, who know if a random number is ringing your phone, am I getting the call? Is she actually dead? That I've been waiting on for years. Like, I have a eulogy in my head for a family member since I'm a child. Because I know when my poor granddad died, we bought a plot that you can put cremations in because we knew. You know, and hopefully that never happens. Hopefully this person finds recovery, you know, and has a beautiful life, and I wish nothing more. But you still have that thing where you're checking the phone, where you hear something going off and you're like, oh, what was that? You know, it's there, and it's hard. But you know, it's amazing to just be around people who get that and look at working on ourselves, because you know, it's easy for a lot of people who have an addict in their life to say they're causing the madness. But are you the one who's actually roaring? Are you the one who's causing the chaos in the home? You know, they say one person in addiction can affect 5 to 15 people around them. You know, and if them 5 to 15 people aren't getting help, that's a shame, isn't it?
And everybody needs help.
Everybody does.
Everybody needs that help, because when you're looking at a loved one who you think is slowly killing themselves by putting substances and alcohol into their body at uncontrolled limits, you know, you're slowly watching somebody harm themselves, and you know you've no control over it.
Yeah.
That's tough.
It is. And I internalised that for many years. You know, my ma and dad used to say to me as a child, I'm going to get better for you. And they'd have tears in their eyes, and I tell you, if you put them on a lie detector there and then, they would have passed it. Because they meant that. They meant that they were going to get better for me. But poor me then, seeing me dad die, and said, well, he couldn't do it for me. And seeing me ma in her massive, you know, homelessness and addiction for me teenage years, where I isolated myself away, to then saying, it's me that's the problem. Because if they can't get better for me, what's wrong with me?
Jeez, yeah.
You know? And I spent years having to look at that and undoing that. And now I'm in a really nice place where, you know, in the fellowship I'm in, when we have open meetings, that's my favourite, because I love hearing CA shares and I love hearing shares from other people. And I'm meeting a lot of my dad's friends.
That's powerful.
And, you know, I'm meeting the boys, and everything happens for a reason.
It can be emotional conversations.
They can, and you know, it's all. I got upset a few weeks ago because I was thinking, like, I wish my dad was sitting in these rooms looking at his friends. I was looking at one of his friends in particular, and I could see my dad's face on his body. And I was thinking, I wish he could have found that, but he did find it. I found it.
Yeah.
He's after guiding me into around all these people now who are looking after me. I thought for years my dad left me because he took his life. No, he didn't. He knew I was going to be surrounded by all these people and do good things, and that's the important stuff, you know.
That's powerful.
That's powerful. Yeah, it kind of gave me chills there, the way you were speaking about your understanding of how we work and how we're all connected in that kind of way. Like, even with your dad's relationships with his friends, like, and they'll all remember him and
now because they're in recovery, they remember the madness and the goodness, and it's great to chat to them about that.
Yeah, because you're learning more about your father as well. And it's bringing up a laugh. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, even thinking of it there now, it could be quite emotional, like. But that's fantastic, Tammy. Like, you know,
Thanks.
it's great to see somebody to come through that life and not be involved in that, any of the criminality or the drugs and stuff. And you know, I know you have we all have our own struggles on a daily basis with life and mental health, and I do, Tommy does, Tony does, we all have. But like, we learn how to cope, like you're learning how to cope, and you have learned how to cope, you know. And when I say this, I mean this truly. Like, you are a fucking absolute inspiration of a woman. I mean that. Like, to get through what you have and to have a smile on your face. You have a lovely energy about you as well, and I'm sure you're going to go far no matter what you do, because you're going to implement change, and even, you know, I'm also a firm believer, if what's for you will come to you, and what's not will go the other way, whether you want it or not. And like, I've had situations in my life where I thought I needed something to be in my life, and it didn't happen, and then 2-3 weeks later something else came into my life, and it was completely different to what I thought I needed, but it was the perfect thing I needed. You know, so these things do happen. Now, before we wrap it up, have you anything else that you'd like to talk about beforehand?
Have I anything else? No, I just think, like...
You have?
Have I?
Yes, you're doing a Camino.
Oh, I am, doing the Camino next Friday. Like a mad thing. I signed up there 2 weeks ago, very last minute. I'm very irrational. I can't think about things too long, or I put them off. So me and 31 people are going to the Camino to raise funds for the inclusion team in St. James's Hospital, who work with a lot of isolated people. You know, people in homelessness, dual diagnosis, stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Is that a new role? Is that a new thing?
I'm not too sure now, because I literally just jumped on because a lot of the people who I know are going. But it's a brilliant service. Like, it's well needed.
I just heard something about it just being based in Cork. We had somebody text us there recently that they were just have to becoming a facilitator for inclusion in Cork. For inclusion with people on the streets and stuff, and just going out working with them and trying to get them whatever services they need. And, you know, exactly as you described it there.
Yeah.
So I think that's powerful.
Yeah, it is. It's needed.
So
Like,
how you're going for a week? How long are you
going for a week. We're doing 110k, I think. And like, I won't walk to the shop. I drive everywhere, so I am nervous.
Yeah.
But look, it's about the connection. It's about being around people, and just having a bleeding laugh.
Having a crack, yeah.
You know?
And you will.
And that
yeah.
you will, yeah.
I'll tell you one thing though, and I mean this truly. You're going to go on that walk with 31 people and you're going to have some of the best conversations, right?
So.
That you have ever had in your life.
Yeah.
Walking in that mountain, and you're going to make friends for life off it as well, because
Yeah. I hope so, boys, because see me, like, I'll jump up and talk in front of 100 people, 1,000 people. It won't affect me. I don't care. I'm never going to see them again, you know. Not that I don't care, I do, but I just don't get nervous about it.
Yeah.
But see, sometimes sitting with people one-to-one, people coming up to me afterwards saying, well done, my anxiety goes through the roof. Oh,
you're uncomfortable as well, or that.
I'm like, I just need to leave. It makes me
it's
very...
like you're zapped from energy. It's like, get to the door,
And
get
then
into the car and get home.
And people are saying, you're brilliant. And like, what do you say back to that? I'm like, thanks. So I'm a bit nervous about the one-to-one stuff, but I know I'll be grand. Once I get into the flow of waffling to someone, you can't shut me up.
Yeah. Fair play. But have an absolute ball anyway. The whole
Thanks
lot
so
of you.
much.
And listen, for everybody that's listening, if anybody's been, you know, anything we spoke about today, if they've been affected in any way, just talk to somebody close to you, or maybe a counsellor or whatever, and try to get whatever help you can, you know. And I wish everybody well. And listen, I want to thank Tammy.
Thanks very much for
joining us today, Tommy and Tony. And I'm Timmy from Long Way Back Podcast. Thanks to everybody for listening. God bless and goodbye.
God bless.
Right.